Once upon a time, in a land far away, there lived a young woman named Isabella. She was beautiful, with long, flowing hair the color of honey and eyes as green as emeralds. But despite her beauty, Isabella was lonely, for she had yet to find true love. One day, as Isabella walked through the forest, she came upon a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood a tall, handsome man with piercing blue eyes and jet black hair. His name was Alexander, and he was the prince of the land. As soon as their eyes met, Isabella felt a spark of attraction, and she knew in her heart that this was the man she had been waiting for. And so, with her heart beating fast, Isabella approached Alexander, and they began to talk. As they talked, Isabella found herself falling deeper and deeper in love with Alexander. They talked about everything under the sun, from their hopes and dreams to their fears and worries. And as the sun began to set, they realized that they had been talking for hours. Reluctantly, they said goodbye and parted ways, but they promised to meet again the next day. And so, for the next several days, Isabella and Alexander met in the clearing, and they fell more deeply in love with each passing day. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, Isabella and Alexander knew that they could not bear to be apart. And so, they decided to run away together, to a place where they could be alone and be together forever. They ran through the forest, hand in hand, laughing and singing as they went. And at last, they came to a small cottage on the edge of the forest, where they decided to make their home. Isabella and Alexander's love for each other grew stronger each day as they spent more and more time together. They explored the forest and its surroundings, discovering hidden gems that they would have never known existed otherwise. They made a point to spend as much time together as they could, making each moment count. One day, Alexander took Isabella to a small pond deep within the forest. The water was crystal clear, and the sun shone down on it, making it sparkle like diamonds. As they sat by the pond, Alexander took Isabella's hand and looked deeply into her emerald green eyes. "Isabella, I know we've only known each other for a short time, but I feel as if we've known each other our whole lives," Alexander said. Isabella's heart skipped a beat. She felt the same way, but she didn't want to rush things. "I feel the same way, Alexander, but let's take things slow," she said. Alexander nodded in agreement, and they continued to sit by the pond, talking and laughing until the sun began to set. As they walked back to their cottage, Alexander took Isabella's hand and held it tightly. She looked up at him, and he looked down at her, and they shared a deep and meaningful gaze that spoke volumes. That night, as they lay in bed together, Alexander held Isabella close, and they talked about their hopes and dreams for the future. Isabella had always dreamed of traveling to far-off lands and experiencing new cultures, and Alexander had always wanted to learn how to sail and explore the ocean. As they talked, they realized that they shared a common dream to see the world together. And so, they made a pact to travel the world and experience everything it had to offer, side by side. Over the next few years, Isabella and Alexander saved up every penny they could, and they finally had enough to set off on their journey. They sold their cottage and set sail on a ship, excited to see what adventures lay ahead. They traveled to many different lands, experiencing new cultures and meeting new people. They went on safari in Africa, climbed mountains in South America, and explored ancient ruins in Europe. Everywhere they went, they fell more deeply in love with each other. As they traveled, they met many different people who had their own unique love stories to tell. Isabella and Alexander listened to each story intently, learning from each one and growing even closer as a couple. One day, they arrived on a small island in the Pacific. It was a beautiful place with white sandy beaches, crystal clear waters, and towering palm trees. As they explored the island, they stumbled upon a small village, and they were immediately taken in by the warmth and kindness of the villagers. The villagers told them about a legend that said that if two people were truly in love, they could climb to the top of a nearby mountain and see the future together. Isabella and Alexander were intrigued and decided to make the climb. The climb was long and treacherous, but they made it to the top, hand in hand. As they looked out at the horizon, they saw the future before them, and it was filled with happiness and joy. They descended the mountain, feeling more in love than ever before. They returned to the village, and the villagers celebrated their love with a feast and a traditional dance. After the feast, Isabella and Alexander lay on the beach, watching the stars twinkle in the night sky. They knew that they had found true love, and they knew that they would be together forever. As they returned to their ship and set sail, they knew that their journey was just beginning. They had seen so much of the world, but there was still so much more.